Great. So the recording is now started. So my name's Oliver, and yeah, thank you so much for coming to this training session. So if you haven't already, or after this session, please do complete this pre-training baseline survey. Ideally, it would have been done before the session, but I know sometimes timings don't work out, and that's fine. You can still complete it even afterwards. If you are watching the recording, however, it would be lovely if you could scan this or complete the survey before you continue on with the recording. So feel free to put pause and just complete the survey. It's super quick, and it just helps us understand the impacts of the program and help to improve it as well. So yeah, just basic admin stuff. Please do keep your microphones muted if you're not speaking. There will be chances throughout the session to ask any questions or clarifications. And yeah, the session will be recorded and it will be uploaded unlisted to YouTube afterwards. And we'll send you the recording and other useful guiding materials. So just to really briefly introduce myself, there'll be loads of time for us to all to get to know each other, of course, next Wednesday. But yeah, so my name's Oliver. I am a big bird watching fan, as you might can tell from those pictures. So this is the perfect job for me. And I'm also an eco-poet and Chinese calligrapher. I'm half Chinese. And yeah, as part of my role at Students Organising for Sustainability UK, I get to work with students like yourselves and staff in both colleges and universities in the UK and internationally to embed sustainability and climate justice into education. And so, yeah, this is just a really lovely, I think, program. It's the first time I've formally actually worked on it. So there's a lot for me to learn in that self, but also to learn from you lot as well. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it and getting to know you a bit better. It would be great just as I do this sort of admin stuff to feel free to put in the chat what's your name, what do you study, and also really my favorite question to ask anyone that I meet is if you could transform into any animal, what would you be and why? Um, I just think it's a really nice thing to just see what people's dream animals are like. And yeah, and just to describe what's on the screen. So there's a peregrine falcon, which is, you might know, is the fastest animal on the planet when diving, faster than a racing car. There's also Nemo or clownfish, who can smell the difference between friend and foe. And then also just a nice little jaguar chilling on a tree. You don't have to choose from those pictures, but just to get you thinking. So yeah, and I'll have a look at the chat a bit later to see what you lot want to be. Cool. So yeah, feel free to add to the chat whilst I do this shebang. So by the end of this training, you'll be able to not only outline the purpose of this farming for carbon and nature project or program, but also outline how farming in the UK can have a positive impact on both nature, biodiversity, and also climate action. And we'll also then, of course, be able to share how you can actually take part in monitoring farmland birds, and how to do this in practice. And of course, also what happens to your data once you've collected this information. Just to very briefly introduce the charity SOS UK. So it stands for Students Organising for Sustainability UK. I'm always out of breath after saying it. But yeah, so we're basically a student-led charity formed in 2019 to pretty much be the support crew so that all students, no matter their age, can be the change that they want to see in the world. We do that by delivering a massive variety of projects and campaigns, including FCN, and many, many more that I can't name off the top of my head, at least 30 probably. And that's all about, yeah, sort of equipping students with skills, knowledge, and values to address the various social and environmental challenges around the world. We also do a lot of work on inclusion and climate justice. And we actually lead a piece of research for the past couple of years to look into getting environmental organizations in the UK to disclose their diversity data of their staff. And the reason for that is because we know, and some of you might know this as well, that the farming sector and the environmental sector is the least racially ethnic diverse sector in the UK. And so there's a lot that needs to be done to ensure that this field is as inclusive as possible and not just through tokenistic performative tick boxing. So yeah, it's just a really interesting piece of work that we do. And yeah, loads of charities submit their data to this project. including ones like the RSPB and many hundreds of others. So I'm just going to give, it's annoying, like there's only so much time in the world to talk about these big, scary, depressing problems, but I think it's still useful to just kind of like set the scene and why it's so important to have US students to help lead the change with these kinds of issues. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the biodiversity and climate crises. Um, so as some of you may know, biodiversity is can be defined as like the variety of life on our shared planet. And it is like a fundamental isn't a strong enough word, but it's like foundational, pivotal, whatever, for a healthy and functioning planets and many communities within it. And so the biodiversity crisis pretty much describes our ongoing historical and ongoing presence of like the rapid loss, decline of both species as well as ecosystem and genetic diversity as well. We're sort of living through this like sixth mass extinction event in like geological history, and over about almost 50,000 or so animal and plant species are sadly threatened with extinction worldwide. And so despite all those quite depressing statistics, they're not inevitable. Like these aren't like this is not a prophecy for us in the future. There are things that we can do and are doing already, but we do know that transformative change is really required to address this ecological crisis. I guess then just a very quick question for you lot on the call. Like why mention this biodiversity crisis? Like why is it important to protect nature? What is it? Yeah, why are we bothering basically? Big question. There's a lot of ways to tackle that kind of question, but yeah, it'd be great to hear your thoughts. And feel free to post in the chat as well if you wish. And whilst you're doing that, I'm loving to see the dream morph type animals that you'd love to be. That's really cool. And no pressure to write an essay, of course. This is your chance to not have to write any essays for once. So yeah, so really nice motive. I think protecting nature is our responsibility as people living on the planet. Yeah, so there's definitely like a moral obligation, I'd say, to this notion of protecting nature. We're not alone on our very messy and complicated planet.
I can jump in while people are typing
Yeah, great.
and just offer that I think nature is so important to the health of our planet and all of the life on Earth, like oxygen that we breathe and regulating our climate and ecosystems. So that's why I think it's really important to protect.
Exactly, yeah. I always forget about air. But it's like the most sort of like fundamental thing in some ways. Yeah, and also a really great comment from I think it was Emma on yeah I think probably notioning towards like the intrinsic value of nature as well, which is definitely very sort of like an advocate for that. So yeah, just to like give some other ideas and pretty much building from what you lot just said. So like we know it's like a fundamental thing, not just for human society, so like providing air, food, shelter, medicine, but also like forming like being able to like protect habitats and ecosystems from like wider external shocks to the system. So things like extreme weather and pollution. And of course, the various, you might have heard of these words before, but like supporting, regulating provisional and cultural ecosystem services. So like pretty much the benefits of ecosystems and then many processes for our lives and wider society. But I think also really nicely as well that some of you picked this up, that it's also not just like what nature does for us, but also non-human animals, plants, and wider species of life also have like their own sort of intrinsic value as well, irrespective of human interest. And so that's why graphics like this on the slide, where you've got like ego to eco, can be really useful in that we're not just caring just about humans and their many diversities, but also realizing that we're part of wider shared relationships and kinship as well with more than human animals and plants and fungi. And so I guess a sort of twin crisis that is often used with the biodiversity crisis is the climate crisis. I'm sure many of you might have heard of this before, or climate change or global warming. But essentially, and I won't go into so much detail because there's no time for that. But basically, it's all about human-induced climate change through like the overcombustion of fossil fuels and the release of greenhouse gases, but also even beyond that as well, the underlying systems of oppression like colonialism and capitalism that drive these kinds of issues. And so the reason why it's so important to look at the climate crisis, not just as a problem within itself, but also for biodiversity, is because we know already there are various ways that the climate crisis is already affecting biodiversity on the planet. And it's also affecting like sort of exacerbating existing and new energy, water, and food insecurity problems, pollution, livelihoods, forced migration, one of the many push factors for forced migration, and many other like things that it can sort of multiply and adversely affect as well. And so, like building on that as well, the climate crisis really helps spotlight the inherent injustice faced by those who are least responsible for causing this problem, yet are the most burdened by its impacts. And often that lands on those that are like marginalized, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, or the global majority, as others prefer to use. But also, again, the non-human animals. I actually did my master's research into the bushfires in what is known as Australia, and how that affected like literally trillions of invertebrates in the soil, let alone 3 billion native mammals, reptiles, and birds. And it really brought to light the need to like build more like solidarity between social and ecological justice movements as well. And so just to like highlight the interconnections between these two, as much as there are nuances between these crises, there are also so many overlaps that are very complicated and messy, but important to at least highlight. And back in 2020, these two big organizations, one known as the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, and then the other one focused on climate change, came together for the first time ever, which I was very surprised about, given how many overlaps there are between what they do. But basically, they came together to look at these twin crises and produce a very long but very interesting report on these interconnections and also the transformative change required for securing a more healthier and happier future for all. The recording and also the slides and resources like this will be shared afterwards, so no need to like write loads of this down or try and even write down that diagram. So yeah. And so I guess where does agriculture fall into this, given the context of this farming program? So we know that agriculture has a really large impact on these crises, but the context and how this plays out in the UK is quite different from a global scale. So globally, we know that around 50% or so of the planet's habitable land is like farmed, and that agriculture contributes at least about a third of global greenhouse gas emissions. In the UK, however, around 70% of land mass is farmed, and you may also know that the UK is unfortunately one of the most like nature depleted countries in the world, and that wildlife is declining at like very bad rates. And that agriculture contributes around 10% of UK emissions, but I actually think that is slightly different now. So I would update that before I send you the slides. But yeah, and so I guess this is why like it's so important to look at the different ways that farming can actually be part of the solution, as well as addressing its limitations. You might have heard these like terms being thrown around quite a lot, things like agroecology, sustainable agriculture, climate-friendly farming, nature-friendly farming, regenerative agriculture, and many, many more. What we say often within SOS UK is that it's not too much about the words we use, as long as that really translates into action on the ground. That's really the key thing we need to see. And a couple of years ago, we worked with the National Federation of Young Farmers and Flame to run a project that brought together students, young farmers, and land justice activists together to look into this, these kinds of language systems and actions needed. And they produced this really lovely like graphic that you're welcome to like share and use elsewhere, highlighting how farming can be quite a should be and can be quite an important force for change for both social justice, rights to land, and rights to healthy food, as well as ecology, restoring soils, and reducing and ideally stopping habitat destruction, as well as wider like climate action, including mitigation and adaptation as well. So just to give like a very brief overview of the Farming for Carbon and Nature program or project, pretty much the same thing really. This is a program that we did a pilot for about 3 to 4 years previously, and this is the first year that we have like formally launched the program. So you are one of a very small number of students who will be taking part in this like launch. So that's quite unique to have on your CV. And yeah, there's a various reasons why we've sort of created this program, including before I came to charity. So one of them is because we want to work directly with farms at UK universities and colleges for many reasons. A big one being that we know from our research that unis and colleges own around 35,000 hectares of farmland, which, if that doesn't mean anything to you, it's basically like 65,000 football pitches worth of land, farmland. So there's a lot of potential within that, of course. And we're also doing it because we want to support farms to like learn from each other, that sort of like knowledge exchange, and help them to sort of farm for better soil health, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and also, of course, to support wider nature recovery. And as part of the program, we're not just looking at birds and soil, but also we're doing, as you might tell from the communications, we're also looking at insects, pollinators, hedges, and worms as well. Another key thing as well is to like empower you as students yourselves to like be directly involved in like active learning for sustainability, and understanding like the links between biodiversity, climate, and farming, and the various green skills and various loads of employability skills that you can gain from these kinds of projects, for your own personal and professional lives and commitments. And then also encouraging universities and colleges to reward farms for like the benefits of farming for nature and climate and biodiversity. So I guess focusing on birds, because that's obviously what you signed up to. It would be great, I think, just to like ask you again, like why do you think we're bothering to monitor for birds? I don't think I've given away the answer yet already, but yeah, if I have, then maybe think of something else. But yeah, why do you think we're going to be walking around a field with some binoculars and having a nice look around the farm? Yeah, go ahead, Jana.
Is one of the reasons because there's a risk that agriculture will get rid of their habitats, like the birds' natural habitats.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a really good point. And yeah, different farming practices can have like quite adverse impacts on both birds and other wildlife. And so by if we're tracking like what birds are already like within certain farmland that we're surveying, that can be a really good way to like set like a baseline and then measure the impacts of positive changes to that land in favor of nature and climate as well. And yeah, feel free to add some more to the chat as well. We'll keep an eye on that. Some other reasons as well include things like um, this idea of like being a really good indicator of like the state of nature. I think, of course, all species are a great indicator, but birds especially have a lot of slightly more unique characteristics in that not only have we studied birds in general for like centuries, and there's loads of data out there on not only what types of birds there are, but also their abundance or the amounts of birds in certain habitats areas, but also because we know that they're relatively like easy to detect and observe in the natural environment. And there's also like really useful cues that alert us to their presence. So like bird song, brightly colored plumage and feathers and nests and things like that. It's also because birds are like sort of located towards the top bit of the food chain, and so they can help reflect like wider changes within the whole ecosystem, like fluctuations in populations of insects or wild plants due to farming practices. And so, yeah, this really nice quote from an ornithologist called Rory Torrey Peterson. They're a great indicator of the environment and if they're in trouble, if birds are in trouble, then we as people will also soon be in trouble and are already sort of in trouble as well. So, yeah, just a sort of another way to frame that. It's also really important to monitor birds and other wildlife because we need that kind of data to help with actually knowing the impacts of restoring and regenerating nature and farmland. And we know that like around birds, especially farmland wildlife, are facing like quite drastic declines since 1970. And there's only sort of certain farmland like specialists, meaning birds that are like only live or tend to only live in farmland. So things like corn buntings, grey partridges, turtle doves, and tree sparrows. They're like known as like the specialists for farmlands. But we unfortunately do know that their populations have like declined by about 90% since 1970. So only about maybe 10% or so of their populations are left. Another like graphic to help illustrate this big picture. I'm not going to give you all of the stats. That's going to be very boring, but just to help highlight this bigger context, there is a lot of data collected by the government and also arm's length departmental bodies like the JNCC, I think the arm's length, on like sort of like breeding and non-breeding bird populations by habitats. And so although we're focusing on farmland, it's also interesting just to see how this varies with wintering water birds, woodland and wetland birds as well. And again, yeah, all of this like information, if you're really interested in learning more about the data side of things, there's a ton out there. And yeah, we'll include some like recommended resources as well. And so we know that like the decline of these kinds of species and types of birds are often like linked to like the intensification and expansion of agriculture. And that's because we know that these drivers can not only affect the quantity or number of habitats for birds, but also the actual quality of those habitats as well. So just to give some quick examples, things like, large field sizes or little variety in crops, like monocultures, being rotated or grown, that can result in directly less seed to eat, as well as other like less insects and worms. We also know there is quite a lot of like use of pesticides, fungicides, and herbicides, which also have a direct impact on the food chain and therefore the like indicator species of birds. Also things like frequent mowing of grassland areas. You might have heard of campaigns like No Mow May. They're quite useful, but ideally that's not just focused for one part of the year. It's a bit more spread out as well, where ideal. And also this bit about like habitat fragmentation. So this really helps highlight that it's not just about full on like land habitats in themselves, like forests and so on, but actually like what habitats exist between different ecosystems that allow birds and other mammals and wildlife to transport themselves or go via different mediums to get to different places. That can have a really massive impact as well. And it's one of the reasons why we also survey hedgerow surveys as part of the program that you're also welcome to volunteer for as well. And so, yeah, I mentioned before about the biodiversity stripes. This is just another graphic, I think, to help illustrate this. It's specific to UK farmland bird decline from 1970 to 2019. You might have seen the climate stripes. The biodiversity stripes is basically the biodiversity equivalent created by Miles Richardson. And they're just a lovely, also slightly depressing, but really useful graphic that tells like 1,000 words in a picture. And yeah, it just helps indicate this isn't just like a generic biodiversity decline, but there's also quite specific things for different types of animals as well. So a slightly more interactive activity again, it would be interesting, I think, just to like almost like test your knowledge on common farmland or common garden birds that we may see, that we hope to see. So these are just a selection. You'll be looking for up to 60 birds technically, but we're not going to do all 60 right now. But this is just like wings types of birds that we think are quite common in the areas you'll be going to. So yeah, I think it would be great maybe if you could just like feel free to put in the chat like in numbers. We don't need to do them in order. I'm aware of time as well. So, but yeah, feel free just to put what you think, which ones are. We can spend like 2 minutes on this. Yeah, 14 being a European robin. Yeah, definitely. I think that might be my favorite bird, apart from some bird species that I came across in China. Um, yeah, pigeons. I'd like to think those are like they should be the quite hopefully the easy ones for you. Um, Number one, bullfinch. So close, it's a chaffinch. I actually also, to be honest, get them mixed up myself. But it's useful to know that like the males tend to have more like usually more brighter like feathers than females, as you can tell from the others as well. Um, but yeah, definitely type of finch. Yes, blue tits for number seven. Um, oh, I think the numbers might be a bit confusing. So I think number 11 is pointing to the magpie. I'm assuming that's what you meant, Meredith, for the instead of the blue tip, but maybe. Um, yeah, what about maybe number 8 or 3 or 4? Yes, exactly, collared dove. Uh, nice. So just to reveal the answers. So yeah, I won't read them out one by one, but you pretty much got almost all of them. I think the ones that were left over were things like, so number 3, I must admit, maybe it was the picture, but I thought it was a great tit, but then I realized it's not got enough green to it, but it's a coal tit. Um, I don't think they're as common as great tits, but you may well see it. Number 6 being a goldfinch. Oh, yes, I mean, you're correct. It was a coal tit. Yeah, number 6 is a goldfinch. So these are really, really lovely birds, especially quite common on farmland. They've got a very lovely bird song to them, quite distinctive when you know what you're listening for. And yeah, number 5, starlings, very chattery birds. They can mimic sounds, really quite cool. Often travel in like big groups and can be quite raucous sometimes. And yeah, I think the others, yeah, sparrows are number 13. And yeah, we will provide you a bird identification guide to help with these common farmland birds. And there will also be on hand like a pocket bird ID book that I'll have that we can share around. You're also welcome to ask each other to help identify birds on the day. Please do. That's like the best way to learn, I think. And yeah, but I'll get into that a bit more a bit later. But yeah, so I'm hoping that was quite interesting to do. Let me just again navigate between these windows. Cool. So I'm just going to now give a bit more practical details about actually how we're going to do the bird count. And there will be time again for like any questions on this. I'll also mention as well that some of the plans may be subject to change depending on any changes that happen from today till next Wednesday, and also how many people actually attend as well. So we may have to adapt accordingly given that, but the majority of this should be the same. So just some context as well. So the Farmland Bird Count is not organised by us, and it's organised by the Game and Wildlife Countryside Trust. And they basically, since 2014, they've organised this like annual citizen science project to engage members of the public and farmers on just going outside and monitoring birds on farmland. And the reasons for this is similar to what we've discussed already, but also looking at it helps farmers really assess like how their farming practices might be helping or harming farmland birds, and therefore giving them that awareness on what they can do to improve and areas to support, for example, things like land management plans and other specific things for farmers. So in context for us, though, we'll be using this equipment. So you will be provided with binoculars by us. However, I will say that if you have your own pair of binoculars, you're more than welcome to bring them. we can't guarantee that we're not liable for them being lost or damaged, that usual stuff. But if you do want to bring them, then feel free to do so, because I know that can be really handy. The binoculars we have, most of them are 8x21 in like magnification, which should be mostly okay for what we're doing. However, I am also going to bring my own personal pair of binoculars, which is at least 10x30, I think. So we can like share that around and to help people just to try using different equipment as well to get that experience too. But yeah, if you do have your own binoculars or have access to other binoculars, then definitely feel free to bring that along. And yeah, as mentioned, you'll get like these printed farmland bird count worksheets, and I'll talk about that in a second. And there'll also be like a pocket ID bird book that we'll have, but you're also welcome to, like, if you can, with the ID guide we send to you, you can like download that to your phone, or you can take a screenshot just so you have the color version, because I know it's easier to identify things when they're in color. So you're welcome to do that as well. Also provide pens and things like that. In terms of like bringing your smartphone, I'm assuming most people have a smartphone nowadays, but if you can bring it, that'd be great. Not only for keeping in touch, especially for any emergencies, hopefully not, but just in case. But also to help with locating your like specific location of when you're doing your count. There is an app that we do recommend for that, but also if you already have on your smartphone a way to find the longitude and latitude of your position, then that's fine. You don't need to use another app for that. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. In terms of your results, so whilst you'll be collecting them, jotting down what you see on paper, after the count finishes, we're going to go back to campus to reflect on the experience and stuff like that, but also to actually upload this information onto an app that the trust has only just started using for this year's bird counts. So we've had to update how we do this methodology. But this is also a good chance as well for you to like discuss with people what you saw or what you think you might have seen, and how we can help maybe identify what you might have seen. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, there will be time for any questions on this as well very soon. So before the day, as mentioned, if you feel like you need to familiarize yourself with birds you might see, maybe from that list that we had earlier, then feel free to do so. I'll also share this, like, you can see it on the slide as well, but there's like a link to the farmland bird counts ID guide with like common birds, what to look out for, their colors and like behavior as well. And in terms of like, I guess what to focus on, both before and during the counting, it can be really good to try to pay attention to like feathers, their colors, beak shapes and sizes. And also note that, as mentioned, female and male birds can look quite different, even though they belong to the same species. So males can have more distinctive colors than females sometimes. Another piece of advice I would add to this as well is during the counts, I would also recommend, if you can, and also as like a learning opportunity, to try to see if you can notice any like distinctive behaviors of birds as well. Sometimes you may not actually get a chance to, because birds fly and they have free will, you may not have a chance to like see them in loads of detail, but you might notice certain characteristics about how they behave that could help with identifying what they were. The best example I can think for farmland birds especially is a kestrel. You might have heard of it or seen it before, but they are very cute, relatively small birds of prey. And they, I'm going to embarrass myself doing this on camera, but they sort of fly like this. They hover in one spot. And if you see a bird doing that, I think it's almost definite that it's going to be a kestrel. It's a very unique ability that they have. I don't know too many other birds that can do that, to be honest. So yeah, if you see some birds like that have quite unique behaviors, then definitely feel free to note that down, and then we can come together and see what bird you might have seen. And so yeah, on the day, this is the sort of a Ordnance Survey map view of the far fields that we'll be walking around. This is like on the Langhill Farm Estates near Easterbush campus. And yeah, in terms of, it's hard to say like exactly where you'll be standing until we get there and how many people there are and things like that. But the general idea is that you'll be working in pairs or small groups to count birds in different locations on these fields. There are some slight like elevations in land, not massively, but some. So you're welcome to like ideally go to those because it helps give that better view of the land. But it's also fine to do the count on flat land as well. That's completely fine. And yeah, so in terms of the actual like worksheet, so this is like just a short screenshot of it that you'll get on the day. This is slightly adjusted version of what the countryside, the game, what countryside, oh no, I've forgotten the name, that trust that they provide for this farmland survey. The reason being is that we wanted to also collect some other information that would help with avoiding potential double counting. So apart from adding things like your name, the count time, your location, and what you saw, and how many, it would also be good where you can to also mark like on the sheet with an L or F if you saw a bird that landed or was flying. And the only reason for that is although the official bird count they don't care about that data. For us, it's useful because we were talking about how there might be times where you see a bird like a kestrel on both fields, but it's the same bird. And so how do we go about this issue of double counting? And this is not just specific to this bird survey, it's to many different other like wildlife surveys that you might do. It's difficult to like to 100% avoid double counting, I think, but there are ways you can sort of like mitigate that risk. And we think just jotting down if the bird landed or flew is a useful way of doing that. So yeah, just we'll give you a reminder as well on the day about this. It's mostly just for like just to understand the data we collect. And then finally, just before I pause for any questions, when you get back to campus, you'll be uploading these results to an app called Perdix Pro Fieldbook. We encourage you to like download it before the field trip, so like sometime today if you can, maybe. And you don't need to create an account, you can just do a guest login, and I'll share some instructions about that a bit later. On the day then, so once you're back on campus and uploaded your data, you'll then, when you add that data, you'll get an option on the app to receive an email with your results. So it'd be really great if you could say yes to that, and then send that email to this email on the slide, foodandfarming@sos-uk.org. The reason for this is just because it helps us keep a log of what you saw, and avoid us having to badger you about what did you see, so we can write it down as well. So yeah, that's the main. We didn't do this in the past because in the past there was no app to use for the farmland bird count, but this is the first time that the organization, that the trust, is using it. And there's also other information that you'll need to put into the app as well, but we can tell you that beforehand because it's all the same for everyone. Like, for example, the use of the land and its address and stuff like that. So I'm just going to pause for now, just to check if that all makes sense. Bearing in mind there might be some changes on the day, but in general, I'm hoping that's relatively clear. And also the same for Georgia. If there's anything I might have missed or even miscommunicated, then yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, there's nothing I think you've missed. Thank you, Oliver. Yeah, if anyone has questions, we're going to be going out to the university's farm at Lang Hill. So I don't know how many of you are vet students and are already familiar with the farm, and how many of you are not and have never been to the farm. But yeah, we'll be meeting at Easterbush and transporting everyone over there. And me and Oliver will send out a message with all the logistics and kind of details of things you need to bring and stuff like that after the session. But yeah, happy to also answer any questions you have now. I can see Emma's typing, so maybe we just wait for her question.
Yeah, we've got loads of time.
Is parking available at Eastbush? Let me just get up the transport page. I can pop it in here for you. I can't remember what the situation is around like permits and students parking on campus, so I'll just have a quick look.
Great. And yeah, whilst George was doing that, it would be good to know as well, just for context. So I think from what I can tell from maybe some of the courses that you shared, there might be one person who's based in the vet school, but I'm assuming like all of you based in like more the central campus usually. Any for like more locally to Easterbush? No worries if you're not. That's just to for us to know.
I've just found the page about parking. It does say you need a permit, and I don't know what the process is for getting a permit as a student. But there is public transport out to the campus as well. There's buses that run from the centre of town. I'll be going out there by bus on the morning.
Yeah, yeah, both of us will be. I also, for context, I'm not based in Edinburgh. I'm actually based near London, so I'll be obviously not traveling to this on the same day. That would be quite a nightmare. But I'll be so staying in Edinburgh for a couple of days. But yeah, and I do know from previous travel in Edinburgh that yeah, the buses are really frequent and more
Oh,
cost
actually,
effective.
there is visitor parking in some of the car park areas, so you might be able to have a look around and see if you can find those. Maybe you'd be able to count for a visitor as a day, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. And if any of you do wish to drive for whatever reason, then yeah, probably best to look into that as soon as you can, just in case. But yeah, as mentioned, yeah, you're welcome to use public transport. Great. So I'm just gonna move on then to some like final like pieces of guidance. Um, so it's all frozen. So just some like top tips for the day. You're welcome to like, obviously like refer back to this closer to the time because you might forget, but just to give an insight. So yeah, as mentioned, do like feel free to spend some time before the field trip to just get familiar with like those common farmland birds and also like the example birds on the worksheet. Um, I think it's quite obvious this, but you know, loud noise will scare birds close to you. So when you're there, do try to be as quiet as possible. And sort of building on that, this can be really good, especially to try to listen for bird song. We're not expecting you to be like really like professional birdsong identifiers. I think anyone should have to do that. But it might be a really nice learning activity for yourself to like just almost like listen out for like common calls or songs you might hear. There is another app which is completely optional that you can download called Merlin, and it basically helps with finding a potential match to bird song you might hear. You can record it on your phone. But yeah, there are some calls certainly are more distinctive than others. But yeah, if you are not too sure, but you want to learn about this, then the Merlin app might be quite a useful way of doing it. Also, like various, the RSPB, Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, and other like charities provide various like guidance on common calls of birds as well. I think the most important tip is to definitely help each other out on the day. Of course, me and Georgia will be there for like logistical things and also in general for the birds, but also between yourselves, this is a great chance to like discuss with people during the counts, like what you might be seeing or other observations you're making as well about the land or other wildlife too. And yeah, as mentioned, there will be time like from about 1 to 2 p.m. For us to get back to the campus and just reflect on that experience and help identify any other birds you might have seen. Um, and then yeah, these smartphone apps. So as mentioned, the Merlin one is definitely optional, but would like if you could to like download the Perdix Pro Fieldbook app before, and also What Three Words or any other app that you need to like know your location. This is the this is the like bird ID guide that I'll email you with. It's a one color copy. And yeah, it includes like common birds that we hopefully might see. And yeah, there's also like as usual various information online that you can refer to help. I also yeah did forget to mention that the each like count you do like session of counting you do will last about 30 minutes, and then you'll walk somewhere else to the farm to do another count of whatever 30 minutes. So you're not just going to be standing in one position for 2 hours, if that helps like make it a bit more interesting as well. There's also a video included on the slide, which provides like guidance for how to like adjust your binoculars. I recommend like definitely having a look at that in your own time, and also maybe before the event as well. We'll also have time as well for you to check you're okay with using the binoculars. It's not rocket science at all. It's very simple. It's just a useful thing for you to look into before the day. And yeah, as mentioned, you will get like you'll be able to access some pocket binoculars and also my own like slightly more powerful binocular. But as well, like if you do want to bring your own, then you're more than welcome to. So I guess in terms of like logistics, so this is like an approximate agenda. So the idea is that you would all ideally arrive on the Easterbush campus, where we'll let you know the room location soon, at around like 9:30-ish in the morning. And then before we get a minibus to the farm, there'll be a chance to obviously just check in, introduce ourselves, do a sort of final plan for the day, especially once we know who is with us. And then yeah, we'll leave campus around 10 o'clock. It's only a very quick drive, like 5 minutes. So if you get queasy on a mini coach, hopefully it won't be too bad. And yeah, we should arrive at the farm around 10:15, hopefully by then. And then the bird count will be from around like 10:15, 10:30 to about 12:45-ish. And then the bus back to campus departs at 1 o'clock. And then once we're back on campus, we might be in the same room or we might be in a different room, but we'll let you know. That'll be a chance to like share data, reflect on stuff, and just finish. Yeah, I will be around like after 2 p.m. as well, in case you want to just like chat about anything else or network amongst yourselves as well if you have that time. But in terms of like what's scheduled for what the main day, it's from like 9:30 to 2 o'clock. Just like really useful golden rules for staying safe. Of course, you're all adults and we have that trust in you, but also just to really make this clear, we're not expecting there to be, I don't think Georgia, we're expecting to see any like vehicles and stuff like that on the farm. So this shouldn't hopefully be an issue.
I mean, I think there'll definitely be things happening on the farm. It is a working farm. I don't know what they'll be doing on that day. So yeah, we need to be careful and just remember that we are on a working dairy farm and there are cows in the fields as well.
Exactly, yeah. So if you do see any farm animals, do like sort of act appropriately, try to walk around them, and try not to feel panicked or anything like that. But if you also feel free to let us know if you have any issues with animals as well, ideally beforehand. That's good to know just for our awareness. Same for like you might come across any farm gates or openings. If you do go through them, definitely close the gate behind you. Also things like rubbish. So although we're not providing like any food or drink on the day, and we encourage you to bring your own, we would of course like if you to take your rubbish with you, and any other belongings you bring. And if you do at any point during the day, whether on campus or on the field, feel ill or injure yourself, then do please let either one of us know. I think we'll probably, we're hoping to set up like a WhatsApp group chat, but also if you don't want to share your phone number, then we can find another approach for that instead. And yeah, definitely bring some water with you. Although it's not like summer, it's definitely important to still stay hydrated. So yeah, definitely bring like a water bottle with you or something like that.
Can I just add as well, the route that we're taking, that we've like mapped out as like the good footpaths we can use to observe over the fields, doesn't actually require us being inside the fields with the livestock. The boundaries, kind of, we can walk around the outsides of them and still get a good view across the farm. So yeah, there shouldn't be too much interaction with farm animals. Just in case anyone's worried about walking through fields of cows, we shouldn't have to do that. We'll be stuck to footpaths.
Yeah, really good point. If you remember from that map I showed, it's basically that red piece around the field. So that's like the marginal boundary bits. So yeah, we're walking along that and not actually walking directly through the field. But yeah, also update the slide as well, just so it's clear on that too. In terms of like what to wear and bring, so I have had a look and I'm pretty sure almost every day in Edinburgh it might be raining, but not too, hopefully not too heavy and nothing too severe to the point where we'd have to cancel, hopefully not. But do like bring warm layers with you. It's still winter. I don't need to, I feel like, tell you quite obvious things, but yeah, just to ideally do feel free to bring like walking boots if you have them. It might be a bit muddy. Or also feel free to bring wellies if you prefer, or trainers also fine. Also like waterproof coats, like with a hood, umbrella, and also any like waterproof trousers if you have them. Also bring like a backpack to carry your belongings, and of course a water bottle and any food or snacks that you might want to have during the day. Um, I guess just the main rule of thumb is don't bring anything that you don't want to get dirty or potentially lost or damaged. Um, and yeah, I think there was something else on here, but I've forgotten. I think that's missing it. Oh, also do double check the weather. That's what I was going to say. Before the day, we'll let you know as well. But I'm hoping if no news about us from the weather, it's good news. So in terms of logistics, so as mentioned, if you're feeling ill or also running late, especially like maybe there might be traffic or stuff like that on public transport, then please do try to let us know as soon as you can, either via email or like a phone call if you don't mind. Um, in the most worst case scenario, if we have to cancel or reschedule the event, of course we will let you know as soon as we can. That could be due to weather, it could be train strikes, but I don't think that's possible anymore because it's a week before, it's not enough notice, and any other unforeseeable reasons. So yeah, but we'll keep you posted on that if needed. And yes, as mentioned on the day, it would be great if we could set up like a WhatsApp group chat for those that have like come. And if possible, please, I will send this in the follow-up email. But if you don't want to be included or share your phone numbers, then do let us know because that's also fine. We don't want to force you to do this. And it will only be a temporary group chat. As soon as the day's done, we're deleting it like that. So yeah, but do let us know if that might be of an issue. Just also around like photography and filming, we would love to like take pictures of you and hopefully some birds, or videos of birds during the visit for like our social media reporting and communications, and also of course for Edinburgh's own communications as well, maybe. Um, Again, I'll send the link to this in the email follow-up, but it would be great if you could complete this form to let us know if you consent or not to being filmed or photographed. As you're all adults, this makes it much more simple to do, but it's still really important for us to know that we have your consent to be featured and things like that. And on the day, if you want to take photos that might include other people in your shot, then definitely check with them that they don't mind being included and get their permission. And of course, if there's no humans in your photos, then yeah, you're welcome to take pictures. I actually might double check with Georgia. Do you know, sometimes I know farmers may not want people to take photos of animals or livestock. Do you think that might be an issue?
I have not had that mentioned before, so
Okay.
I can't imagine there's going to be problems if people want to take pictures during the bird count.
Yeah, cool.
But I can maybe clarify that. As long as we're not taking pictures of everything around the farm, I think we're probably okay.
Yeah.
But be cautious, let's take photography that's relevant to the activity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, but good. Just double check in case. But yeah. So I guess in terms of like what's next. So if you haven't already, do complete that baseline survey. I know technically the training's been covered by now, but it's still really useful to know anyway. You've done the ones that are in the cyberspace today. You've clearly done this training or watched the recording. And yes, so the farm will be seeing you next Wednesday about 9:30. And then after the bird counts, you'll be given a follow-up survey to complete as well. Again, that's all just to help with like tracking the impact it's had on you, and ways for us to improve it. And then to receive a digital badge from SOS UK, you will need to either complete the baseline or follow-up survey, as well as the actual event itself, the bird counts. and then we'll email you that digital badge to your student emails. And there will also be like, we can also send certificates as well. But yeah, so I guess that's mostly it for that. I did have some other little bits as well, but that can wait for now. If there's any questions about the logistics, probably one of the most important bits of the day. But yeah. If not, I would just quickly share then some guidance for using the apps. Really simple. Again, they're not complicated. If I can use it, anyone can. So this is what 3 words. This is a really useful app to know your exact like latitude and longitude to add to your worksheet. You'll need obviously internet to download it, but once you've downloaded it, you don't need the internet to actually use it. And so once you have downloaded it, go to the settings and then go to what 3 words display, and then just toggle that option to be able to see the latitude and longitude, so that when you go to the map on the app and zoom in, it's quite detailed. You can select like almost your exact position and log your latitude and longitude on the sheet. That's it. You don't need to do anything else with the app if you've downloaded it. With the Pedix Pro Fieldbook app, so which all of you will need to do to upload your data, as mentioned, you don't create an account number or username. I don't even know how you do that in the first place. So you just press guest login once you've downloaded it, put in ideally your student email address, then verify it with the code they send it to that address, and then just the only project available at the moment is the farmland account, so that should be quite intuitive. And yeah, then you'll upload your results and the other information that will tell you to add as well. And then you'll be given the option to get an email of the results that you can send to us, and also more importantly have for your own keeping for like reference. And if you ever choose to do the farmland account in your own time again, then that'd be really interesting maybe to see the differences you see as well. And then finally, optionally as well, there's the Merlin Birdsong ID app. Again, it's quite simple to use, but it's also got other like useful things to explore in your own time. But yeah, the idea is that you can just like record live bird song, and then it can hopefully help you ID what that bird is. I pause again just for any questions on that, but I'm hoping that's probably hopefully quite easy to understand. I might also as well mention, do bring a charger with you and check your phone is like fully charged. But I think we probably all quite used to that, doing that mentality. The only final thing I guess then to just close with is just to get some feedback on like how you found this training. This is a Slido poll that we use to like monitor the effectiveness of this kind of training and how we can improve it for future trainings and other years of this program. So if you haven't used Slido before, it's really simple. If you have a smartphone on you, feel free to scan that QR code, and then you'll be taken to slido.com, and then you type in hashtag 2768689, or you can go to your web browser on your laptop or other device and just type in that code on the slido.com website. And then you should hopefully be able to access it. And I can see others have started doing that, which is great. And yeah, these are the references and further resources. And there's a load on here, and there's so many more as well out there. But I think these are the ones that hopefully are the most useful for you for the context of the program. And yeah, as mentioned, we'll share with you the recording and the slides, the ID guide, and you'll get on the day like a printed worksheet to complete during the counting. So that's it from me. I'm sorry about slightly running over time. I'm going to blame it on the Slido, but also my own slightly inept with that. So yeah, thank you so much for coming to this. I really hope you found it interesting and insightful. And I can't wait to not looking at a screen anymore and actually just being on a field somewhere. A really nice break from what I usually get to do. So yeah, and feel free to, if you want to stay behind to ask about anything, how to do that. I can turn off the recording as well. Actually, I'll just do that now. just in case you don't want to be spoken on camera. Thank you for those that have listened to the recording as well.